my God, you're so crazy. You're so utterly crazy.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. And yesterday was the 4-hour marathon that was Jordan B. Peterson's appearance on the Joe Rogan show. And of course, Twitter is losing its proverbial minds. Now, I admit, kind of the 2016 Blue Hair-a-Palooza, these days are basically gone. They were replaced by Karens, and then everyone kind of got sick of Karens. And it's just not as interesting as it once was. But I do think Jordan Peterson is still an extraordinarily important cultural figure, in particular for men, not just for men, but in particular for men. And while everything he says isn't just inherently true, and worshiping at the altar of Dr. Peterson just because he owned some SJWs isn't exactly healthy, I do think that the conversation between Joe Rogan and Jordan B. Peterson was extraordinarily interesting. It was engaging, it was funny, it was informative, and it was triggering for a lot of people. Before we get into all the hilarity around it, a quick word from this video's sponsor. Huge shout out to this video's sponsor, of course, Lord of the Board, a free-to-play, friendly backgammon game that you can play anywhere at any time. The game is, of course, totally free on both Android and iOS. Backgammon, it's a traditional multiplayer board game. Forget all you know about board games and other multiplayer games. Backgammon, Lord of the Board, is one of the most competitive and addicting games out there. The adrenaline rush of winning backgammon tournaments and advancing to a top spot on the leaderboard is simply unbeatable. If you're not familiar with backgammon, you can learn how to play pretty quick. It's a game pretty much everyone should know how to play. I'm pretty new to the game, but I'm absolutely having a blast playing it. It's really easy to match up with somebody. It searches for an opponent, it finds them pretty quickly here, 5 seconds, and we're off and ready to run, already playing some backgammon, which I'm getting better and better at. I'm really enjoying this game. You play the game 1v1, there's basically always someone online to play with, and it keeps your brain active. In the game, you can also find fine design, special album collections, unique table designs, tournaments with leaderboards, free bonuses, prizes, and much more. So do you think you can take me on in backgammon? What are you waiting for? Click the link in the video description, download Lord of the Board for free, and receive 500 free coins. If you want to take me on, make sure you download the app. I've been playing for a couple days now, and I'm really enjoying myself. Now we'll start with some of the wildest moments. This is, of course, according to Newsweek. Jordan Peterson made an appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience this week in a 4-hour-long episode that covered a vast range of topics, from race to climate change. The clinical psychologist and author is a controversial figure who is much loved in conservative circles. Again, we can see where Newsweek politically aligns, because I don't think Jordan B. Peterson is anywhere remotely controversial. He has some opinions I disagree with, but I mean, he gets an unfair, a ridiculously inflated amount of criticism and fear-mongering around him when the dude's pretty harmless. Peterson, of course, is the author of the 12 Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos, and Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life, and the self-proclaimed professor against political correctness. Here are the 5 wildest moments. Jordan Peterson claims Michael Eric Dyson is not black. At one point in the episode, Peterson suggested that academic Michael Eric Dyson is not black. While discussing him, he said, "I am white." Actually, that's a lie too. I'm kind of tan. And he was actually not black. He was sort of brown. To which Rogan responded, "If you're tan, then what the F am I? Because I'm darker than you. That's ridiculous." He was making like an actual point, like his skin is not black, and my skin is not white, but we call them these things. So it's not exactly, I mean, it feels like kind of a stretch. Then Jordan Peterson tells Joe Rogan that poor people are not resource efficient. Peterson suggested the fastest way to have a sustainable world is to make poor people as rich as possible, saying that they are not resource efficient because their main priority is feeding their families. What's controversial about that? That doesn't he's not inherently saying that people of wealth or of means are automatically good with the environment. In fact, many at the top of the, economic chain, we have, people like Leonardo DiCaprio, who is constantly saying the the earth is going to implode, flying around on his private jet to talk about climate change. Okay. So I don't think that it inherently means that, but once you have a little bit of wealth, or not wealth, because that's like big money. Once you have a little bit of extra money in the bank, you know, you don't see a lot of people going out and sourcing organic food who don't have a little bit of extra money. There are people, like I go to the farmers markets in the summertime here. There definitely are some people that, you know, maybe at least look like they're not of means, but I mean, look how I dress. So I guess that's pre-qualifying them. But, you know, there's a lot of people who have a little extra money that suddenly care about, you know, organically farmed, fresh, locally stuff that people who are living paycheck to paycheck simply can't be concerned with. That's all he's saying. Like, you're trying to feed your family. You're not worried about, ooh, are these eggs, you know, cruelty free? No, you're trying to get your kid an omelet in the morning. It's just not it's, you know, being a super efficient with your input and output isn't a luxury that a lot of people have. That doesn't mean they can't do it. He's just speaking generally. Jordan Peterson says climate is not real. There's no such thing as climate, Peterson tells Rogan. Climate and everything are the same word. And what bothers me about climate change types, he goes on to say, again, if you really want to like bang your head against the wall, talk to some people who are like on the extremes of climate change. Of course, taking care of this planet is important. I am above all else a tree hugger. Or I was originally like, you know, people would call me a tree hugger or like tree hugging liberal. I plant trees. I try to be sustainable with as much as I possibly can. By the way, that's expensive. I try to save, you know, collect rainwater for watering my plants. I try to do as much as I can. You know, I think about emissions when I'm driving around and, you know, try to make the correct decisions. But none of that, none of what us individuals can do, it all pales in comparison to what the corporations are dumping into the environment every year. So, I mean, that is a little bit, I mean, again, Jordan Peterson is not saying that, you know, the climate doesn't exist. He's just talking about words. Then he talks about solar energy. More people are injured from solar energy than nuclear. He's talking about falling off roofs. I agree that there is, in general, a huge fear around nuclear energy, and it's been the answer for us for 40 years. You know, yes, Chernobyl happened. 3 Mile Island happened, and this is bad. Fukushima, too, I think, right? So it's not like, you know, these issues aren't real. But if you put more nuclear power plants out there, you would solve the energy problem immediately. Then what you can do is you can put, what did Elon say? If all you did was put solar panels in the areas immediately around nuclear power plants, because no one wants to live there for obvious reasons, you could also then provide enough solar. So, I mean, that's not exactly a spicy take. You know, in Rolling Stone, they latch onto this. Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson wax idiotic on climate change, but what it means to be black. Thanks, Rolling Stone. I didn't know this was a music article. You see this? Holy moly, I don't think I can do this. First words out of Peterson's mouth in the Joe Rogan interview are complete self-parody. I can't even dunk on it. I mean, are we talking about, you know...
Hard to sort out. The climate change one is a weird one. So
that's because there's no such thing as climate, right? Climate and everything are the same word. And that's what bothers me about the climate change types. It's like, this is something that bothers me about it technically. It's like, well, climate is about everything. So, okay. But your models aren't based on everything. Your models are based on a set number of variables.
Yeah.
So that means you've reduced the variables, which are everything, to that set. Well, how did you decide which set of variables to include in the equation if it's about everything?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't consider that denial in any way, shape, or form. That's just a conversation about the meaning of words, you know. And then you talk about Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson talk about how the only safe target in comedy is white men.
I think people are going after comedy for a different thing today, because they're going after comedy for a literal representation.
Things they believe that can't be made fun of.
Yeah, but really what they're doing is just looking for targets. They're playing a game. The rules of the game have been established. Comedy violates the rules of the game.
Yeah, what are the rules?
Because comedy take those things. Well, there's a lot of things you can't joke about. You can't joke
Sacred
about
things.
Yeah, there's protected classes now. We all know who they are. We don't even have to bring them up. You know, whether it's trans people, gay people, people of color, Asian people, whatever those things are. One thing you can mock relentlessly is white people, specifically white males. It's one of the.
Well, they are pretty funny, you know.
Oh, sure, we're ridiculous, but it's a funny pejorative that people will say about like a group of folks.
Exactly. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson think it's weird to use the term black. Black is used for anyone who isn't 100% African. But you can see that's not what they meant. They also said they weren't white. They were a little tan. Honestly, the whole conversation was bonkers. Both of them are ridiculous. It isn't what some people are trying to turn it into, though, because that's exactly what the media does. They're so desperate to spin this. I thought the conversation was actually, Ethan Klein's trending. Of course. I thought the conversation was like, it wasn't as spicy, because so much of this, was kind of left behind in 2016, 2017. I think that for me, I like what Jordan Peterson has to say, but I think we all already know, right? So I'm moving on to the point where it's like, okay, well, what can we actually do? What's actionable here? You want to talk about climate change? What can the average person, that's what I want to see come out of these conversations. What can the average Jane or Joe do to help with climate change? Not argue about it on Twitter. I could tell you that much, right? Spending all day on Twitter talking about climate change is the opposite of making change. One, you're using energy. Two, you're not changing any minds on Twitter. So go outside, get a barrel, collect rainwater, first put the spigot in the bottom. Don't want it to be full of water and have to drill into it. Collect your rainwater. This is something literally almost everyone can do to some small degree, right? If you're going to your sink and you're watering your plants, you could put a bucket outside and collect some rainwater, or collect snow and let it melt, or, all these type of things. So it's like, it's, sorry if you heard that. That was my phone alarm, not yours. What can we do about breaking down boundaries back in comedy? Yes, we all know that you can relentlessly mock white men, and that's socially acceptable. Well, why? What can we do? Can we just have comedians be brave again and mock everybody? Not everybody's Dave Chappelle with $1 billion in the bank to risk it all and stand 10 toes behind it. So how do you do that? Well, do you get like, underground kind of grassroots comedy stuff going again? How do we push back? So this is where the conversation started with Rogan and Peterson, but it's like, let's take it to the next level. All these people whinging and melting down on Twitter, they're not changing anything. In fact, they're certainly part of the problem. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.